I want to talk to you about living in your present moment. What is the present moment? And why does Jesus tell us to live in the present moment? Have no concern about the future. Have no concern about what you're going to do. He gives comparisons to the animals, right? Does a bird wake up worrying about what he's going to do? When he says not to worry and not to be concerned, to have a care in the world, right? He wants you to be careless, right? When he says that, doesn't that require trust? Well, that's what we're going to talk about right now a little bit. So first of all, what is the present moment? We know what the past is. We know what the future is. But is this the present time that we're living? The conditions around us? Are we talking about this week, this month? Are we talking about the fact that you're sitting down to watch this video right now? Are you living in your present moment? Are you still considering, do I want to watch this? Or are you listening to the words that I'm saying right now? It's kind of like a flashlight when you aim it at the wall. It's real bright in the center, and out here it's dark. But the gray area isn't just gray, right? It's a fade, right? There's a slow fade there, right? Which is why we have a fascination with lasers, right? Because it's right there. It's a dot, right? Unless the lens is dirty. So the more you live in the present moment, the more it requires you to trust God. Now, think of this. A child, when it's born, can be very happy, right? Or very sad, one extreme or the other. There's no lukewarm if you think about it, right? Because the child is living in its present moment. Very often they're not thinking ahead. 10 years ago, there was a study by Daniel Gilbert. Is that his name? Yeah, Daniel Gilbert. He wrote a book called Stumbling on Happiness. This is very secular. But he interviewed 2,250 people. Actually, I shouldn't say interview because it was more than an interview, to study the wonderness. Now, the researchers found out the people were their least happiness when their mind was wandering. And guess what? No one's mind in the test, nobody out of 2,250 people throughout the day, no one's mind wandered less than 30% of the time. And 49.5% of the time, so that's half the time, their minds were wandering. And we're talking about people with their job, we're talking about everything. Their minds always wandered, they couldn't focus. So that includes you. And you know, when you want to live in your present moment, and you have to practice this because it requires faith, going down to the small things. Because when the world's falling apart around you on the big scale, how can you focus on going to work today? That's just today. Oh, I have to worry about these things. I have to worry about these things. As you grow in your faith, you need to reinvest your faith. So you need to trust that God is going to lead and guide you. And how many times, I want to speak to those that you have insomnia, for example. And this is the way that maybe you're being tested. You know, the devil is allowed to test you that way, or God ordains it. I'm not talking about that in that video, what allows it for those certain things to happen to you. But for those of you that may have insomnia, and for everyone else, you can relate to this. You're trying to sleep, you have no good ideas, maybe you've been working all day, and as soon as you lay down in bed and when you go to sleep, you get these ideas. To go write that down. Write it down. You get out of bed and you're thinking about it. I can't get these ideas when I need them. Or whenever you're talking to someone, or you get ideas to say to a loved one, and then when you get there, the thoughts aren't there. You just can't say it. You want to say those things. All these things give us the idea that we're in control and that we need to write things down and we need to plan things. It's nice to make, as you grow in your faith, you want to practice giving the control to God. And you will be tempted to take control. You will. You'll be tempted, I got to write this down. I keep no notes when I do these videos. I would like to, and it makes it uncomfortable for me, and especially because I want to make it is the reason I don't start with the beginning saying, hi, you know, so there's music and this is what we're going to talk about today. A lot of videos, they waste a lot of time, right? I like to just jump into the topic. And anytime I go around in a circle like this, it's so you can see my thought process, how I'm asking God to lead and guide me. Hopefully you see that. And just so you know that I'm genuine. I want to get right to the point. I want to be considerate of people's time. The same way when I drive a car, I'm considerate of the people around me on the road. I always look into my rear view mirror to get out of the way, things like that, like I talked about in other videos. So living in the present moment means that you're trusting that God is taking care of the future. And I mean everything. The world's not on automatic pilot. He didn't set it up and he's not coming back later to see how it works. He's involved in every little aspect of your life. Jesus is involved in everything. He's always knocking on the door and he's putting thoughts in your head, taking things out of your head, and not every thought is put there by him, as we mentioned some other video and in other videos. So how living in your present moment plays out is if you're sitting down right now to do something, and when you sit down to do it, you have ideas of something else that are not urgent. So in other words, I'm not talking about if the phone's ringing. Get the phone, because this is something for you to give up, because it's service to other people. If you get an idea in your head to do something while you're in the middle of something else, that if you don't do, is going to not be loving your neighbor, now this is a test for you. This is an opportunity for you. So in other words, right now I'm in the middle of making a video right now, right? If I get a knock at the door, for example, instead of ignoring that knock at the door, I have to make this video over. That's a test for me. That's an opportunity for me to do that. Not doing that is not loving my neighbor up there. It's choosing what I want over my neighbor. So that's not what I'm talking about. But if right now I think, for example, while I'm making this video, I think I left the stove on upstairs. I'm telling you, I can use my faith and I can say, this is my present moment. This is where I'm at anyway. You have to reinvest your faith. You might drive you crazy being able to do that. And you can say, thanks for letting me decide for peace. I know you'll take care of it. And I do that. You can do that when you think you left the house and you think you left the door unlocked. You can just say, I could go back. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it out of laziness. So I'm going to live in my present moment right now, and I'm going to decide for peace. If you ask God to lead and guide you, then you have to go with the flow. You know, when I was growing up, my house was up on a hill. And I remember one day, this is about going with the flow and living in the present moment. I just had to come past the house real quick, and and I was young, and I don't know, I was like 22, and living at home, and I parked the car real quick. I ran up the house and got some mail, or checked the mail, came down and ran down. And I looked up, and I saw that I wasn't sure if I locked the door or something, so I ran back up, checked, make sure. Oh, I think I left the light on. Yeah, I left the light on when I was up there. I looked up, saw the light on, and I could have easily let it go, but I saw it, so I was just going with the flow. So I ran back up there, being hard on myself. Not a big deal to leave the light on. I just do those little things. So I shut the light off. I ran back down, got in the car. I just happened to glance up, and when I pulled the door shut, I guess I pulled it too hard. It backed up, and I see the door open. So I go up and I do the thing. Oh, I got a little bit confused. That's right. I left the light on the third time. When I came down, I saw the light on. And I could have just said, I went up 2 times, leave the light. It's just a stupid light. But I thought, no, it's an opportunity for me. Just like in the gymnasium, you go and lift a heavy weight. You recognize that God's setting you up for all the opportunity in your life. Live your life like a game you can enjoy. So I went back up the 3rd time. So that's living in that present moment now. How does that apply? Because I had an agenda to get somewhere. I wanted to go somewhere to meet my friends or do something. And this isn't even what I remember about it now. All I remember is the test that God gave me. That's what I'm talking about. I don't even know where I was going. But we think that we know what we're about, why I'm here, what I want to do, what's my agenda today, what am I going to do. All these videos that I make, I'll be honest with you, 10 minutes before I sat down to turn this thing on, I was sure what I was going to write this video about, and this wasn't it. And then I had the idea to write it about some other things. And just as I was turning on the recorder, that's when I thought, boy, I'm not living in my present moment. And I'm telling you, just a few seconds before I said I want to talk to you today about living in the present moment, it wasn't my topic. It wasn't. You have to depend on God to give you things like this. And by the way, I'm getting better speaking just making these videos, aren't I? I have no notes in front of me. I don't know anything. And right when I thought about it, I thought, oh, I remember his name. That's why I picked that up. I didn't plan anything. It just falls into place. When you live in your present moment, you're empowering God to show you how he's going to take care of you. Because the world's not on automatic pilot. He's right there. But when you're driving your life and you always have an idea of what I want to do, and you plan out tomorrow, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, how are you going to grow in your faith? Listen, I want to say something that a lot of people will disagree with. Getting to know Jesus is not just studying the scripture. Because if all you're doing is, I said just, I didn't say getting to know Jesus is not studying the scripture. Because you can't fall in love with anybody you don't know. And you can really get to know Jesus by studying the living word of God, absolutely. But then you have to use your faith. You have to exercise it. You have to practice it. And if you have a plan, and you want him to see, and he wants to show you how he can really control your life, and it's not on automatic pilot. If you have a plan, the only option you're giving him, think about this, is to mess up all your plans and come rescue you and show you how it turned out even better. That's all he's going to be able to do. Because if he helps your plan to go well, you're asking him to manage your life, not lead it. Managers help you do things that you want to do correctly. Leaders decide what you should be doing, right? So God is not your manager. Okay, he's not going to help you manage get things that you want to get done in there. He has an idea of what's more important. I thought I knew the best video to make, and he says no. And it requires my faith in order to say, how do I know it's just randomness? It's not doing this. You have to trust that God is leading you. Think about this for those of you that are married, that are in a happy marriage, that you think, wow, this person really understands me. Doesn't it seem like to you I could have married anybody? But this person I'm married to is my soulmate. I know for myself, my wife, I'm thinking, it's like I had a choice to marry her. What if I didn't? I mean, she totally completes me. She's my other half. You know, all the things I can't see, she figures out. And vice versa, you know. You don't want to marry somebody just like yourself. You want to marry your other half, right? Your other half. I'll be honest with you. Do you like yourself that much? Can you put up with, do you like it when you watch yourself in a video or hear yourself talk and you think, oh, I just love me. Oh, I wish I could find another me. If you're honest, you don't. You don't want somebody like you. I don't want somebody like me. I'm embarrassed of myself most of the time. You know, I stumble with my words. The words don't come out right. Can't even get the thoughts out of in my head to come out of my mouth right. You look at yourself and think, oh, do I look like that? So my wife completes me, but I'm thinking, I had a choice to pick her. Free will was very mysterious. I remember walking down the aisle to get married, thinking anything could happen yet. I'm still not married. The priest could have a heart attack. Lights can go out in the church. I actually put the battery backup. I put the PA system in the church, so I'm actually thinking, the battery backup is dead. These are the thoughts popping in my head walking down the aisle. If the power goes out, there's no PA system. It's a huge church. I got married in a cathedral. And so no one can hear without a PA system. And these are the crazy thoughts popping in my head, and I'm just throwing them out of my head. But until I was actually married, I know that this doesn't have to be the person. Once I get married, I know it is set. I am married now, and this is the person for the rest of my life. Someone I just met recently said to me, he said, we were talking, he's a devout Protestant, and he said to me, well, you figured out after all these years of being married, the secret to becoming married. And I said, what's that? And he goes, you just decide to. You say, I'm going to stay married. You just decide to. That's great. It's a decision. The word, decide comes from the Latin word, it means to cut off from any other option, right? It's a decision. So, but going back to living in the present moment, you trust that God is leading, guide. Oh, what I said about that, what I meant was when you're living in your present moment, certain things that we think are our free will are actually decided for us ahead of time. And I'm going to talk about that in the video called Free Will and Predestination. What's the difference? Because it's kind of like, I don't believe in predestination, but when you think about free will, it's like if you're helping your child ride a bike, taking off the training wheels. You're holding onto the seat, then you let go of the seat. You're holding onto the seat. When you're holding onto the seat, you're the one keeping them balanced, but they don't know that. And when you let go of their steering, they don't know that. They don't know when they're steering and when they're not. And that's what your life is like, right? Think about this. Half the time, that study that came out 10 years ago says that people aren't thinking about what they're doing. And by the way, the study, that study, it's called, I think, automatic pilot, because people are an automatic pilot. And guess when people are the least happy? When they're not in their present moment. That's the reason. This is secular. That's the reason that I loved that study. My background is science, so I love that study because this is the secular world. And when people are on automatic pilot, what does that mean? You're thinking about your own thoughts. And that's what the study says. It actually says when people were thinking about their own interior thoughts, what I want to do, what I need to do, what I have to do, they're not focusing on the world around you. And part of loving your neighbor, right? Loving your neighbor. Remember Jesus said everything summed up, right? Love God with all your heart. And we'll talk about that. What does that mean in another video? And 2, love your neighbor. All the commandments are built on that. So how does your loving your neighbor play out? It's paying attention to them foremost, isn't it? Putting their needs above yours. So when you live in your present moment, you are paying attention to the people around you and the circumstances around you, right? Whatever that may be. So, and by living in the present moment, you will be able to choose peace. I want you to think about this. As you mature and you're able to control more things, you have the opportunity now to give those things up to trust God. When you're real small, you don't have those opportunities. I remember, I have it in many videos. I remember when one of my daughters, when she learned, I think she was 4 years old, we watched a documentary, that our son's going to go out someday, and She was scared for a couple of nights. Other little kids are scared of monsters in the closet. My little girl wants me to tell her, well, what happens if the sun does go up? You know, and I'm here saying, don't you remember Jesus saying, why do you entertain those thoughts? He wants you to trust him, to trust him. The more things need to be explained to you for you to be at peace, the less you trust God. That's a good thing to realize because you know you're not there yet. You know you're not there yet. And some things in life aren't about being right and wrong. It's about the better path. And it's about, because it's a progression. You know, I was having a conversation recently about, with a Protestant on it was a nice conversation too. It was on a different YouTube channel. And it was about how it's okay to have guns and how, you know, we're supposed to have a sword and things like that. And I said, well, wait a minute, but if you trust God, remember, according to your faith, it will be done for you. So anything that's going to make you worry or be concerned about the future, God is giving you an opportunity to trust him more. See, we're all at different places. Remember, if you were a school teacher and you had, you know, 100 students in your class, you need like 150 questions on the test to rank everybody, right? To put them in order of how well they're doing. But if you have, you know, 15 billion, 20 billion people, whatever number of people ever existed in humanity, you're going to need a complicated test, something like life, with people with different handicaps, like just doing sports, you know, so that things can be fair. And this is why we're not to judge, because we're not able to judge. And by the way, people talk about judging. Don't judge me like that. That's an observation. You are supposed to look at people and make what you want to consider interior judgments. But a judgment, when it says don't judge people, think about a court judge. When he takes that gavel and it hits and he says, something impacted your life. That gavel impacting the desk, something impacted your life, didn't it? If I just say I don't think that you're a nice person, and I'm saying it to myself, and I should be thinking, well, maybe they had a bad day, or I should be doing these things. But that's not a judgment, making an observation. I don't want to go around. You're not judging people. Judgment means it affects them. If you're doing something and you're just making observations to decide what you should do, that's not a judgment. A judgment affects their life. It impacts them just like that gavel impacts the desk. That's the whole thing. So I thought I'd throw that out about judging, because we are supposed to judge interior to make, you know, decisions. But judging someone else is something different. So going back to living in the present moment, and by the way, that's what I'm doing here. As a thought comes up, I'm not trying to stay on topic. I want God to lead and guide me. And I know I'm not going to look orderly. But you know there's a scripture that says, a person led by the Spirit, the wind, they don't know which way they're going. That should be your life. It's you know how meekness is weakness by choice. A weak person just can't stand up to anybody, but a meek person knows they could smash the other person. But out of love, they're choosing to be weak. That was Jesus. See, I can walk around, I can be gentle, but when the time comes, you know, you can just say, hey, pay attention. I'm talking to you. You're getting sidetracked. See? And some of you are getting sidetracked, right? Maybe that was you. I got you back on track. And that's exactly what Jesus does to me sometimes. I ask him to lead and guide me. I tell him, you considered me a dumb sheep. And he did. He calls us his sheep. I don't think it's a compliment. They're dumb animals, right? You say, come here, it goes running out. Well, how many of you have a cat, you know, and you call the cat to come eat, and the cat comes running and goes the other way? We see all these silly these little dumb animals, and it's so cute because we're not that smart. We think that we're smart. We think we can figure things out, and we want to drive our lives. And God waits. It's like a GPS, you know. He's given us the short path to get there, but we want to go the scenic route. Oh, let's go that way. And he says, okay, you drive. And whenever we focus back on him, just like the GPS, it takes a while to get back on track. And the more you live in your present moment, you think of some of the holiest people that ever lived. I mean, people that really impacted, you know, whether it's the little flower, or, you know, they live short lives. Some people live short lives. They accomplished everything they want to get that God needed them to get done. It's just great. But their whole life was devoted to God. And don't let evil shout in your ear. See, if you're devoted to God, you're going to have a short life. No, it doesn't say that. I didn't say that. But these are people that wanted to be with Jesus. They wanted to. And if you knew how great heaven was, eyes not seen, ears not heard, nor is it entered into the heart of any man how great things are, you wouldn't want to stay here. Look, I talk about the caterpillar and the butterfly. He's flying around up there. He's not thinking, boy, I wish my home in the grass. I wonder how my friends are doing. He can look down and he can see them. He knows what they're doing if he wants to, right? Living in your present moment requires faith. When you get ideas, oh, I should write that down for tomorrow. I should do this. You could write it down. There is nothing wrong with you taking the time out, saying that I'm weak. I better write that down because I don't trust God that much. Just realize that's what you're doing. God never said, you do your best I want you to do your best, and I will help you get along. I'll help you get through it. No, he said, have not a care in the world. Don't even worry about what you're going to wear tomorrow. Don't think about that. Not a care in the world. He wants you to know that he is in total control of your life. The world is not on automatic pilot. He wants you to sit back and enjoy your life just the way that it is, even though you don't know where you're going. You like surprising people. He likes surprising people, and it requires them to trust you, doesn't it? He made you. He knows everything that you're going to like. Again, when you are driving your life, you're proving your lack of trust in him. It is. And I love the scripture that says, according to your faith, it will be done to you. For me, the one thing I want Jesus to say about me is, wow, such faith, such faith. Is it possible that he's going to say to you at the end of your life, you expected me to do too much? Who do you think I am? I have a whole world to take care of here. See? God is almighty. When we were growing up, I was in 8th grade, maybe 7th or 8th grade, and I have such great memories with my sister. And I remember once, and I said, because she was having a problem with her homework, 7th or 8th grade, and I said, ask Jesus to help you. And she said, you know, and like Tina, she just threw her hands up in the air and said, I'm supposed to ask God about my homework. He has a whole world of problems to take care of. And I'm going to bother him with homework that no one's even going to remember. You know, in 50 years, this homework's not going to be important. I'm not going to bother God with my homework. He will, and you know, but you have those little things. People trust their own intellect. They trust their own intellect, and we can see it in kids and we laugh about it. But we're no different. We're just as stupid, you know. I remember my sister used to go tanning outside. And one time, you know, we had a flat area of the roof, and she said, could you think you could put a ladder up there so I could go up there and I could lay on the flat part of the roof? And I said, oh, what are you talking about? She goes, well, I'll be a little bit closer to the sun, laying on the roof, you know. Well, what if the sun's over there, you know, and it's so far, you know, I mean, you know that it's just silly, you know. To her, that was real. It was real. And I explained it doesn't work. She goes, well, it's a little closer. It'll help a little bit. You know, the thing is, you can look down at somebody and see the silliness in somebody, but you don't know who's looking at you. You don't know how far you are. It's easy to look down at a child and say, wow, they just don't trust me. They don't think they don't trust you. They don't think that. You know, whenever they're asking questions to you that show that they don't trust you in certain situations, they don't see it that way. They think of them as being proactive. I'm telling you, just like that study came out, people that are living in their present moment, they're the ones not worrying. They say, right now, right this moment, I'm worrying about. I'm not thinking the video is too long, you know. My kids will be waking up in a couple of minutes. I don't think about those things. You live in the present moment. And you can do that with anything. I mean, and focus on what's going on right in front of you right this second. And you don't have to dismiss every thought that you get in your mind without considering it, but just say, no, and you get better at dismissing those thoughts. I think about Jesus all the time saying, why do you entertain those thoughts? He doesn't say, why do you have those thoughts? Why do you entertain them? If you get a thought, even bad thoughts that come into your head, don't entertain them. Some of them are temptations, you know. You know, if you watch the recent Wonder Woman movie, you know, and the character that was playing Satan, he said, I didn't make them do this. I just give them the idea. They're the ones that take the idea. Isn't that true? Isn't that true? You know? So, when you get these ideas in your head that interrupt your present moment, even if it seems like it's a good idea, live in your present moment. This repeats, trust that God can bring that back to you. And you know, for some of you that don't practice this, the only way he can practice with you is by taking thoughts out of your head when you're in the middle of a conversation. And isn't that one of the reasons why sometimes you have a problem listening to people? You know you want to listen more, but you get this idea, and you know if you don't say it now, it's going to leave. Oh, I'm not going to remember it. I'm not going to remember it. I want to tell them this. Let me just say this before I forget, because I'm going to forget. You know, and I'm guilty of this. I'm growing too. And I get these thoughts, and I think, boy, this is a good thought. You know, and I'm talking to somebody, and they're asking me to help them, and while they're telling me about their problem, they're in the middle of their problem, and I'm in the middle of understanding their problem, which is the most important part, is listening to people. That's how you love your neighbor. Just listen to them. Listening to people makes them feel valued, and it helps you to understand where they're at. You're not just trying to teach, you know. We don't like that that's much. I'll be honest with you, one of the reasons I enjoy making these videos more than talking to people is because I don't get interrupted, and I don't like being interrupted. But God wants me to be interrupted. He wants me to see how I deal with that. Trusting Him to go with the present moment. And I can't tell them, hey, the present moment is me talking, be quiet. No. That's for me. This is my present moment, is listening to them. They're interrupting me, and it's a choice to serve my neighbor. So I have to trust. My present moment is trusting that thought that I think is so important, if it's really important, God will bring it back. He's not managing me, telling me to write it down. He's saying, I will put the thought back in your head when it's important and if it's important. See? And you know that this is the case. You know there are loved ones around you that you want to say things to them, and you think about what to say. As soon as you're around them, it's taken out of your mind. You can't think all the great things you wanted to say. God's leading you to do these things. Remember, Jesus wasn't able to do anything, any miracles. He couldn't do anything really great around his hometown. Their lack of faith didn't permit it. He had to go elsewhere. He couldn't do anything there. See, they were saying, isn't this Jesus? He grew up with, blah, 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 blah. So this is all about trusting God. When you practice trusting God, and how do you do that? You say, I'm not going to worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow I got this big test I got to do. The time to practice is over. I need to go to sleep now so that I can do that test. And I'm not talking about crazy New Age stuff, sleeping with the book under your head, and I'm talking about just saying, I studied a little bit, Lord, just help me to learn what I should have did. Because the time is past now, right? That's in the past. But you don't worry about it. Right now it takes faith to say, I'm trusting that you're going to take care of us. And even if you fail the test, you don't say, well, look at that. I trusted God. See where it got me. Now, what you sow, you reap. But you look at the big picture, right? It's just like a war. We look at the whole world here. Look at the way the world's going. We know the end. We know that the war is won, right? But there are battles that are being lost, right? Souls are in the balance here. People are going to hell, right? People are on the road to hell. There's a movie called Sinfulness, not a movie, a video I made, Sinfulness, Holiness. It's called Funnel Theory. And it talks about how, the road going to hell starts out wide and it's like a funnel and you get squeezed in. You get squeezed in until you're trapped, and eventually it's like a singularity. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. That's hell. There's you're squished in, you can't go back. And then how you start at the narrow at the top, but it widens out and you get all these freedoms in Christ. That's called Funnel Theory. It's one of my videos. We talk about that, but even though the time goes the same direction, God can change that for you when you turn to Him. When you turn that and you say, lead and guide me, and you stop steering your life. Think about this. Every time you make plans, every time you do it, you're holding God back from steering your life. The only option He has, like I said, is to mess up your plans. See? And for some of you that would take that the wrong way, thinking, I must not be praying, He's not going to interrupt your faith. He's going to take you where you're at. What you offer God is what He'll accept. He doesn't force you. He's a gentleman. You need to reinvest your faith and practice it. Step out of your comfort zone a little bit. Living in the present moment is a great way to do that, because all day long you're thinking, I need to get that done, I need to get this done, and go with the flow of things. If the phone keeps ringing, keep answering the phone. You may not seem to get anything done. Day after day you might be thinking the same problems are there, but you will grow in holiness. And other people will come to take care of the things that you wanted to do. The only time this doesn't work is when you are burdening others. That's when you know you're not being led by God. But if all the difficulties in your life end up being on you, then attribute it to the power steering that I mentioned in other videos. God is using your sacrifices. He is using them to change the world. Remember, those that hurt you, when they hurt you, in any way that you suffer, it doesn't have to be an individual. When you suffer at someone's hands, your prayers for them mean more. And that affects society too. If you don't want to wear a mask, I have a video called Would Jesus Wear a Mask? And it's an interesting take on it, because He would wear a mask, but not for the same reasons. He wouldn't wear it because He wants to be safe, and He wouldn't wear it to protect others. He's God. So, and I go over that there. I'm not going to do it here, but my point is when the world makes you wear a mask and you don't want to wear a mask, if you're one of those individuals, you're safe and you don't want to wear a mask, and the world says to do that, and you're feeling, anytime you're being persecuted for the world or for the government, from the government or anybody, your prayers now for your country have more value. They have more value because you're suffering more at their hands, right? Jesus said, I come not for peace, for division, to put, father against son, right? Mother against the daughter, and you notice he didn't say mother against son and father against daughters. He didn't say husband against wife, because he's doing this. He is doing this himself. He's not going to put a husband and a father against himself. He's putting this in to see who gives him the most to win the most graces for the other one. Living in your present moment, just think about how some of you hold on to the grudges when he says, I come not for peace, for division. Some people, whenever they get offended, the other person has to come fix them. They have to come and say they're sorry, or they'll hold that grudge forever. God allows this to happen to see how you're going to grow. Just think how young children, because I know you've noticed this. Do you see young kids? One of them hurts the other one, or they're like, 5 minutes later, they're playing again. Aren't they great at that? They're easy to put it behind them and just continue. And as they get older, that present moment thing opens up. They're not living in the present moment. Because if me and you argue right now, we're arguing back and forth and we can't get along, and even if I say things that I'm just upset, and even if I'm not upset and I'm nice and calm and I say, I just don't like you, that's the worst, isn't it? Because somebody's upset and they go, I don't like you at all. You know that their emotions got in the way. But when they're calm and they say, I just don't like you, you're just not a nice person, that can really hurt. Now, if tomorrow, if you're upset and you're thinking about this all day long, you're wasting all that time. You're thinking about me, right? You're just thinking about me. And that's what forgiveness is, right? And when you forgive somebody, I want you to understand something. When you forgive somebody, you're not saying that you don't blame them anymore. You actually are blaming them. When you forgive somebody, there's blame involved in that. So I don't want you to think that forgiveness means you don't blame them. I know that sounds confusing to you, so just think about this right now. Go to your neighbor, knock on the door, and when they come out, say, I just want you to know that I forgive you, and then walk away. Are they going to be happy with you? They're going to say, forgive me, what did I do? See, because you're blaming them. So forgiving somebody, you are acknowledging that they did something wrong. Think about that. You are acknowledging they did something wrong. See, but you're not holding it against them. You're saying, don't worry about it. I let it go. I let it go. And you can do that. Even if you don't feel like forgiving, you just say that you do. You practice it. You say that you do. And that's not being a hypocrite. I talked about that in some other videos. You act the way you want to go. Fake it till you make it. Don't let the devil yell in your ear saying you're a hypocrite. I mean, you tell people how to live their life. You tell them it's wrong to lie. But you're a liar, right? You tell people not to steal, but haven't you stolen before? Of course you have. It doesn't make you a hypocrite. It doesn't mean you don't preach it. You're learning too. You're on this walk too, but you still share with people how to do things. The point is, if you're still upset tomorrow about somebody that upset you yesterday, guaranteed 100% you're not living in your present moment. And just like that study said, he said, people aren't happy when their mind's wandering. When they're in their own thoughts, they're not happy. And isn't that why people change their states with drinking and drugs and everything else? Even people that know not, they have to change their states. They have to do that. Let me tell you something. Live in your present moment. Because when you drink, I want you to think about something. You force your mind to go elsewhere, don't you? I mean, you talk to people and say, listen, I'm not that drunk. I know what I'm doing. I only had a couple drinks. And, I'm all right. Trust me, I'm okay. I can talk to you. You can look down at them and see that they're messed up. They can't see. You can't look up and see what you're lacking. So even you and I that think we're totally in control, like my sister saying, I'm a little closer to the sun. Well, God, you really feel that you understand this. You don't feel like, well, maybe I'm wrong. That's why humility is so important. Living in your present moment requires that you trust God. It's saying that, I don't know. They upset me, but I'm going to let it go, God. I'm going to let it go. And when they come back tomorrow like nothing happened, you just talk to them like nothing happened. If you really expect God to lead and guide you, then everything around you're going to look as an opportunity for you. Anything you don't like is an opportunity for growth. I'm going to say that again because some of you might have got sidetracked. You right there. Anything that you don't like in life is an opportunity for growth. Anything. I don't care what it is. Okay? So the whole point of this is that when you live in your present moment, the smallest possible time, and you're thinking about that, you think about it all the time, you are exercising your faith. Because I'll tell you, if you believe the world's on automatic pilot, if you think God needs your help to fix the world, you could never do that. You have to be concerned about tomorrow. You could never be at peace when the whole world's falling up around you. If there's gunfire going back and forth, when I was young, I was in a subway in was it Chicago? I think it was Chicago I was in. And, bullets coming from over there and bullets coming over here, and they're going past us, and right after my dad's camera was stolen, and you can just choose to enjoy your life no matter what you're doing. I mean, they're passing us. And my mother was panicking, and I looked at the peace that my father had. He had a smile on his face. He just knew he was safe. You can only do that by living in your present moment. That's living in your present moment. 20 years later, I remember being on a subway in Moscow, and I'm on my way to the airport, and guess what? They rob me and they steal my wallet with my passport in it. And I knew to decide for peace. I'm not thinking, how am I going to get out now? I have a flight in 2 hours and I don't have a passport. They stole everything. And here's the thing, I wasn't trusting God. He was poking me a little bit saying, oh, you're in control. When I got on, I knew that there was a chance. I felt there's a chance I'm going to be mugged, and I got to be proactive here. I got to think. So when I got on that subway, and for me, I'm a person, I have a strong desire on the road to holiness. I wasn't focusing on all the people around me. I wasn't praying for them, that God, thinking that you love all these people just as much as I do. And bless the country now as I'm leaving to go back home to America. I wasn't living in that present moment of being on that subway. You know what I was doing instead? I was concerned about being mugged. I was. I had, tens of thousands of dollars of cash with me, I think. I had my phone with me, and I had my hand inside a case. I had like a little briefcase, and it was a soft briefcase. I had my hand inside a pouch, and I guess now that looked bad. And the thing is, here's the thing, I was so proactive about this. The whole time I was in Russia, I thought, I'm going to be proactive about this. I had lots of money and all my important documents in a pouch around my waist. On my waist. But then, those little pouches you can put money in, I had one of them around my neck that you could see. So if somebody looked at me and held me up for something, I could pull out this one. See how clever I was being. I'm not going to let you mug me. I had one around my neck, and I thought, I can just, if they get mugged or something, I'll pull the money out. Because I go in all kinds of strange places. I don't, I let God lead me, whatever I'm going to do. My dad used to walk through Central Park Village. He had wands. He used to give money. People jumped out of a car once. He knew he was going to get mugged, and he just took all the wands, threw them up in the air like 20 wands, and took off running. They don't know what it is. He got all kinds of, your life should be, you can be careless as a Christian. If anyone's going to take risks, it should be you. And God will keep you around. He'll say, wow, such faith, because you're only doing those things to Him. Now, I'm not talking about testing Him. I'm talking about letting Him lead you into what you might think is very, very dangerous, living a reckless life. Reckless. You won't have wreck. It'll be reckless. Think what the words mean, right? I'm not telling you just to jump into that. You got to crawl before you can walk. But if you're always steering your life saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you'll never get there. God won't be able to show you the really great things. And this is why to those that's given much, much more is required, right? Because as you grow, you're required to do even more. And think about this. Remember, those that have much will get even more, Scripture says. And those that have little will lose the little they think they have. They just keep studying Scripture over and over again, thinking just learning about God from Scripture and seeing how does it apply to my life. That's necessary. It's necessary, but it doesn't end there. It's just like the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. You don't stay afraid of Him your whole life. He loves you. He sent His Son for you. It's nice to have a healthy fear. Don't misunderstand me, but just as a parent, I want my kids to fear me a little bit, but I don't want them as a 30-year-old fearing me. I want relationship with them. God wants a relationship with you, right? It's so clear. Nowhere in the Bible does it say have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, but we know that we're supposed to have a personal relationship with Him. It's very, very clear we're supposed to have a relationship with Him, right? It's very clear that the Trinity is real. For us Catholics, it's very real that purgatory is there. For Protestants that may be watching that, I did a video on that. It's called Purgatory for Protestants. It just explains where we're at in a way that you will agree that there's some type of purgatory. If you're a Protestant, you'll agree if you watch that video. If you don't, put in the comments why you don't, and I err on the side of excess communication. I like talking to people. Can't you tell? Live in your present moment. It requires that you're trusting God. It enables God to strengthen your faith. This is exercising your faith. Everything in the spiritual world is mirrored from the physical world. He made the physical world for us so that we can get ideas of how things work, whether it's the butterfly and a caterpillar, whether it's going to a gym, you lift a heavy weight to get strong. And in the spiritual world, you got to lift the weight to get strong. That's what you do. Even Jesus, right? How much longer must I endure you? He had to put up with them, right? But then the time came when he says, now I call you friends, right? So be a little bit uncomfortable. Step out of your comfort zone just a little bit so that you're able to choose peace. And choose peace. You can choose peace by just saying, as Jesus did, tomorrow has enough problems of its own. I'm not going to worry about them tonight. I'm going to go to sleep knowing that God, you're taking absolute control of me. The world's not on automatic pilot, right? Taking control of me, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to relax. And for those of you that are well on the way to holiness, things won't go your way. He wants to see how far you'll go. Remember the test I said. You're putting everybody in order to see how much they please him. You're going to be tested. Once you start doing well, you will no longer be tested the way that your peers are. You won't be able to share with some of your other friends at church how God is testing you and the things that are happening to you. They'll say, that's of the devil, that's of this. You judge a tree by its fruit. They said that to Jesus too. There were holy people that said to Jesus, well, he's casting out the demons because he's dealing with the demons. They couldn't understand him where they're at because they never loved their neighbor that much. They didn't. Don't even know who their neighbor was, how to love him. He had to talk about that, right? So focus on living in your present moment. And the only time you should consider doing things is leaving your present moment is if the thoughts you have are concerned with other people, if it's going to hurt them. You serve other people. That's how you serve Jesus, by serving his people around him. By doing that, you can choose peace. Choose peace knowing that God is controlling every little moment of your life. This video is long. I have some more ideas to say, but I just get the idea that I should wrap it up now. So I'll talk more on some other topics in some other videos. Choose peace. That's the purpose of this. When you live in your present moment, you have the opportunity then to say, I'm not going out and doing these ideas that I have right now. I have these ideas, but I'm trusting you're going to take care of these. Give me those thoughts tomorrow. I'm just worrying about this. And you'll get so good at that. You'll get so good at throwing those thoughts out. God knows your thoughts. You don't have to put them in the words. When it says pray always, when I'm praying, I don't always use words talking to God. It's just thoughts. It's just thoughts. The way that you have feelings about people, like, you just love them. And, it's like speed reading, but it's backward. It's speed praying. See? So it enables you then just to be able to, as you're living in your present moment, you get these crazy ideas. Oh, you got to go make food for the kids or whatever. You just dismiss the thoughts, and if 5 minutes later, the kids say, we're hungry. You just say, oh, thanks, Jesus, for giving me the input. And then you go do it. I don't use a watch when to wake up, and you can get there very easily. My father, who had large companies, and I own several businesses. I don't need a watch. I don't need to. When I wear a watch, I do it because it's fun to have because of the other things that I have on the watch. But it's just great. He'll lead you in everything. And you can't get there overnight. You got to crawl before you walk. Live in your present moment. And you'll be just like a little bird that wakes up in the morning, knows to look down, and there's the worm, and he goes and he's not hunting. He provides for everything. And everything will be taken care of you that way, even your work. It's one of the reasons I think as an entrepreneur, I know I was going to wrap this up, but I'll end with this. As an entrepreneur, God has more opportunities to reach out to you. He does. Because he can change everything. When you have a fixed job and it's planned and it's set in stone and you have this, you know how much money you're getting in, you can make a budget, you can decide how to do this. God's not there. He has to come in and mess things up so that you can grow. And you look it over after when disasters happen, people go to the churches. Look at 9/11, look at the things that happen. Oh, you fill the churches, right? As an entrepreneur, I don't know how much money I make tomorrow. And when one business is going down, the other one goes up, this one goes down, this one goes up. It's like over average, it's like a stock market. How am I doing over average? And I have some businesses that haven't made any money, I mean seriously, in 3 years. My wife keeps saying, you should cancel this one. This isn't making us money. We got businesses here that, I'm telling you, 3 years, not a penny is coming in. Some of them are just sucking money out. Other ones are supporting other ones. And I got my hand in all these different fires and all these different things. And I'm wondering, what do you want me to do, God? What do you want me to do? But I spend very little time thinking about what to do. I used to be the opposite. I used to spend like 70% of my time making a plan and then readjusting the plan. And I'm never doing this stuff on the plan. I'm just planning how to plan. But I had to get so good at planning. And I am. You know, I had a friend of mine that used to wear a pin saying, ask me for a plan how to get out of debt. And he was in more debt than anybody that I knew. And I'm thinking, look at that pin you're wearing. How can you wear that pin? And he used to say, but I can help other people so many ways. I just can't do it for myself. Can't you relate to that? So God tests you where you are at in life. So practice reinvesting your faith. Know that He is in total control of your life. Every little thing. Nothing happens without His consent. And remember, He is almighty. If you knew what that meant, you'd be embarrassed. You don't have to plan for all these things. You don't have to. You need to be willing to. You want to make sure that you're not doing it out of laziness. For example, if I realize I get to this I'll end with. When I get out of the car, I make decisions like I saw in I've put in some of my other videos. I don't lock the doors. I'll leave the keys in the ignition, things like that. But when I used to get out of the car and I'd accidentally forget to lock it, I don't say, God, you'll take care of it. That's presumption. I go back to the car and I lock the door. I've done this so many times. But as other times, I'll get out of the car saying, this is a small thing not to lock the door. It's not even a dangerous place. I trust you. I'm leaving it unlocked. I'm not telling you to do this. If it's uncomfortable, I'm going to say, what's he talking about? It's not testing God. It's having fun with your faith. Testing God is when He can fail. That's what a test is. A test you can pass or fail. I'm not testing God. When He said, you shouldn't test God, when the devil tempted Him and said, jumped on, no, He could fail. He could die, right? No, that's testing God. When you're just having fun with your faith, that means that if you're going to tell God that I'm leaving this door unlocked, that if He does let the car get stolen, you're willing to accept that. Do you understand? You don't lend money to people, right, that you're requiring to get it back from. Do you understand? You don't charge interest, right? These are ways that I have to practice my faith, because I lend money to people and I'd like to be able to charge a little bit of interest. I don't. He said not to, so I don't. So all I'm saying is you have fun with your faith. Reinvest it, do little things. Say, I'm going to leave the door unlocked, right? I'm only going to the park here. Leave it unlocked. Come back. It'll be easy for you. I'm telling you it will. Not a big deal. And then the next day, you might even forget to lock the door without talking to God. And you'll be over there and you'll say, oh, I didn't lock the door out of habit. Go back and lock it now, because you didn't invite Him. See? And I don't even have to do that anymore, because now it's just a state of mind with me. I don't go lock. My father hasn't locked his house door 35 years. He never locks the door of his house. He doesn't even think about it. He has to remember to lock some of our buildings when he goes into them, right? Just doesn't work about it, So, I leave the keys in my ignition of all my cars. Can't lose them. Isn't that how it used to be? If you talk to your grandparents and people, you always left the key in the ignition, because otherwise you might lose it. So it's great. So, but you should have fun with your life. Have fun with your faith. Have fun with it. Reinvest it. Let God show you that He really is taking care of you. In the video I made right before this one, I think it's called How to Drag Someone to Heaven, Praying for Loved Lost Ones, Dragging Someone to Heaven. I talk about that a little bit, how I left toilet paper on the top of the car, just to see if somebody will take it. Little ways that you just stretch your faith to see how God really is there. I mean, He's so close to you. He said He's never going to leave you. He said, I'll never leave you, and He doesn't leave you. For us in the Catholic Church, that's why the Eucharist is so important, because we sit down in front. He's never going to leave us. He's right there. And I don't want to turn off the Protestants. So that's a subject for another time, but it's such an important thing for me. It's such an important thing to me, to spend time with Jesus, to spend time with Him, But keep reinvesting your faith. You have to grow that way. Have a dialogue with Him. You think to God. Think to Him all the time. He never leaves you alone. You don't have to do anything. We're human beings. Sit still and know that I am God, right? Sit still and know that I am God. And He'll take care of everything in your life. Remember, God gave you a mind. You have to lose it. If you're depending on you have to worry, don't you? Look how many things you mess up. If you have to do things and steer things, then you should be worried, right? When I'm following the GPS, I'm not that concerned. That's whenever I decide to go this way, and I got to pay attention. But if it's a really good GPS and it's tied into the world and knows everything that's going on, I'm not worried. I don't need to be worried. I have faith in the GPS, right? Have faith in God. Have faith in your Heavenly Father. He's not going to say, oh, I got to worry about this? No, I got to worry, not going to happen. Choose peace.